Cool. Amazing. So, welcome to Paintcast. Our guest tonight is Taylor Byra. Hello. And I'm your host, Katie Hudson. Of course, as always, on the first inaugural episode. So, first of all, let's get the media started. What's your definition of media?
Well, I work in media. I make my living in media, and I also play in media, and I consider those two completely different types of media. Or different mediums, I guess. So, media is, I don't know that I have a definition of it, but I definitely think of it as something designed and consumed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an element of design, and then there's the element of consumption, and that varies a lot, I think, between people, but that's how I try to think of media, and that defines media in both my work and personal lives.
So where do you think the definition between creation and consumption is? Is there a line? When does that difference come in?
Well, I love to think about audience.
Mm-hmm.
And how audiences are impacted. I mean, that's really where my money's at, is who your audience is and who you want it to be. So I think the audience is that line between creation and consumption.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So what would you say your medium is? Do you have a primary one, and how did you find it?
My artistic medium?
If somebody were to ask you, what is your medium personally?
Then I would probably say I started with collage, but I have grown to be very fond of pen and drawing and such, and I like to find ways to incorporate collage and pen and drawing. And then now, more recently, I've been very much trying to incorporate paint with ink and drawing, but my medium is forever evolving. I don't think of having just one medium, and I think that negates the idea that you have freedom to play, and I just need to know that I'm able to play. So I try not to settle on a medium, although if you would ask me, I would probably say collage.
Interesting. Really good answer. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you already answered another question I had for that. So how did you know this definition? What led you to the importance of play in making?
Well, I did this project when I was back in school still, and it was Art of the Month, and every month for the entire year of 2018, the year of our Lord 2018. Why was 2018 like that? But anyway, I digress. But I started this project in the month of 2018, or the year of 2018. And every month I made a piece. And it was based, that the whole point of this was that I was going to base it on a theme in my life during that time. And I didn't have a medium set. I didn't have any other restrictions. It was just a piece of art based on a theme in my life at the time. And so each month that year I came up with a piece that had a really rich theme, and I made some of the richest pieces of art I've made in my life, and that's a time I look back on with great fondness, and because everything was coming out of this really genuine place. And I think a lot about how that year shaped me as an artist, and how that then became, I'm going to make an Instagram for my art, and this is something I'm really going to look into doing things with, and making myself known as an artist. because I was always a theater artist, and theater was my medium, acting was my medium, but now that was always work to me, and this is play.
Yes.
And so the importance of play came in once I spent that year making all of these pieces, and I said I was going to do it again in 2019, but I didn't, and something stopped me, so that at the beginning of 2020 I actually took a break from making and posting art, and that really is where this idea of it's not art if it's not genuine to me, or my art isn't art if it's not genuine, for my own personal ability to conceive of such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I then realized that there is this genuine aspect to just being able to play with paints and play with colors and play with forms and explore a lot more than I was previously. And so I think having that element of play in my art has really helped and has made me create so much more inspired pieces. I don't even know what your question was anymore. I'm just so engulfed in this.
It was really about, you kept on topic the whole time. Why was, because I asked what your medium was, and I was going to ask you how you found it, but really, that's a perfect description. So where do you think the performing arts fits in?
Yeah,
to what you make and to the world, what space does the performance arts occupy for you?
The performing arts are really where my love of all things event-based and my love of all things arts-based and my love of human creativity and human capability kind of all come together in this space, in the performing arts space. And I think that the performance and visual arts inform one another,
Mm-hmm.
but are definitely separate. And I am then also reminded of the elements of visual art in performance art and vice versa. And now you think of social media playing this huge role in turning visual art into performance art.
Mm-hmm.
Through, like, I've started making little reels on my Instagram account, and that's just so different. Like, I'm performing now my visual art.
Yeah, it's come really full circle, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. But I think performance art, so where I work, we talk about wanting to have plays that, like, the word that we use a lot is illuminate. And I think about that quite frequently, and this idea that the arts and performance arts especially illuminate and shine this light on society and on, oh God, everything. It's so far reaching I can't even begin to describe. So I think there's this beautiful opportunity for performance art to illuminate and shine light on issues and constructs and really just about anything that's hard to talk about. There's this beautiful, beautiful medium where people can vocalize, and this, I think theater performance art is especially dear to me. Oops, sorry. You're good. Loop-de-loos. But I think theater performance art is especially important because it takes so many other different types of art, such as visual art and writing and singing and just the far reaches of it, and it touches every corner of the artistic spectrum, I feel like, when you create a theater piece. And so I find that really impactful, and it's really my life's calling, I think, to seek out those opportunities and that kind of magic that's created from performance art that can only be created from performance art.
All right. So do you think that, how am I going to put this? Well, I guess, okay, start over. I want to just ask a completely different set of words than the ones I just started forming out of my mouth. What two disciplines or mediums do you think should collaborate more? What do you think would benefit the world the most if these types of artists had more conversations together?
I've thought a lot about this since, well, we just finished watching Abstract, The Art of Design on Netflix, but since the first time that I watched this particular program, which I recommend, and this is not sponsored, but I would love it to be.
Hashtag non-spawn.
Hashtag non-spawn.
Hashtag want spawn. Don't want spawn.
Don't want spawn.
No.
Spawn, S-O-P-N. Or S-P-O-N.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cut that part out. Love and life. Living the dream. But when I watched Abstract, The Art of Design, I started to view this, this one particular episode with Neri. I don't remember. Neri Osman, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I think is her name. And she studies bioarchitecture, which is like the intersection of biology, architecture, and art. And like, for me, that, like, I am starting to see, I studied social science when I was in school, but the art involved in scientific discovery, I think, is so beautiful, and it is so not connected to the performing and visual arts, I don't think, as much as it could be. But I think there's this, like, especially visual art and science, I think, you know, there's like a lot of big questions going around the world right now, like how do we manage food resources? How do we manage, these things that questions natural resources, and like the answer is design. You know, you can design your way out of, I think you can design your way out of anything.
Yeah.
But that takes people collaborating, and I don't know that we have that incredible collaboration quite yet.
So would you say that design is the overlap of art and science?
I think so. I think design is a really great and beautiful place for art and science to mix. But I also think that, like, I can't imagine an image of this in my head, but I think that's a good thing, and I think that, like, we should stay curious about this, but, like, the overlap of science and performance art,
mm-hmm.
and how, like, I think mediums, like, even though I'm not on it and don't want to be, like TikTok, or even YouTube, is, like, this opportunity to overlap, like, science and performance art in a way that could be really interesting and intuitive and creative. But I'd be interested in seeing a lot more of that in the world.
Good. Me too. So, how do you, as a scientist, like, by training in psychology, how do you define, and also a practicing person in the arts as a career and in your personal time, how do you define the difference between science and art?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I have to think about stereotypes in order to even codify it, because I think there's this this line drawn between them that doesn't necessarily need to be there, but at the same time, it most definitely exists and probably should. Because we don't want our science to look so much like art that people stop believing in it, and we don't want our art to look so much like science that people stop paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And so I think I would personally draw the line as human error, and how human error is perceived and dealt with. Because I think in art, you want the beauty of human error, and in science, it's...
You kind of try to optimize
you kind
it
of
out.
Don't want it.
Yeah.
You know? You kind of don't want human error in your science.
Yeah, no.
It's a little distressing.
Hey, you got human error in my science.
To find human error in your science is a little bit upsetting. And so I think about, like, the celebration of human error is definitely much more ingrained in arts than in sciences.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good perspective to take. It kind of, do you think that assumes that human error is inherent to everything humans will do?
I mean, even in psychology, you define human error. I mean, that may not be the operational definition of human error, but I think of human error in the hard sciences as being hopelessly unavoidable, but also the last thing you want. And also, it's not necessarily error. It's just, you are a human instrument, and, like, to make sure that that instrument is calibrated well enough to complete the study, like, you don't want certain types of people or certain beliefs making their way into your science, and that includes all types of beliefs.
Yeah.
All types of any kind. So you want your science to stay beliefless until you are making your assumptions about it later, like retrospectively. You don't want you want to acknowledge the assumptions that got in the way during the study.
Yeah.
You want to acknowledge those pieces.
So, how do you define growth?
Growth. I think that's a tricky one for me, because I've always struggled with finding allowing myself time to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really let myself sit in discomfort for very long, ever, at any point in time, for any reason.
And you think that's necessary to growth, sitting in discomfort?
I think that's part of it, most definitely. I think part of it is also being intrigued by life as a concept, like having curiosity, I think leads to growth.
Mm-hmm.
Being curious, wanting to know what's out there leads to growth. And I think I define growth as... we should tape this down.
Yeah.
I would define growth as a journey, not a destination, really. So there's no way to know, like, I don't think there's any way to know that you've grown. It's just you are, and you are different, and you are able to look at what has occurred in retrospect. There's this great quote from yes, John Green. I'll be the one to quote John Green on the Paintcast, but there's a John Green quote. That's not, I don't even think it's from a book. I'm pretty sure it's from his YouTube videos. And it's, destiny is not something that, or destiny only happens in retrospect, or something along those lines. I don't really remember the whole quote, but.
I mean, that sounds like a good one.
But destiny is something that happens in retrospect. And I think a lot about that, and this idea that, like, destiny, but also growth, is something that happens in retrospect. I don't think it's something that happens to you as you're experiencing it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I guess just a lighter question. Is beer for boys and wine for women? And if not, what is gender?
Okay. So I'm going to go with if not, what is gender for 200. Or whatever game show we're playing. So, gender is a social construct. Yay! And also is very good at putting people into boxes, but it's also very good at, like, I think there are positive aspects of gender and positive aspects of owning a gender identity, but those are far too nuanced for even just me, a mere cisgender woman, to understand. Hey. Sounds gross, but I know I do not understand the full construct of gender as it exists in the world, but I think it's important to know your own relationship with gender. Not whether or not you identify as a particular gender or another, but I think it is important to examine one's relationship with gender. And I think everyone should examine their relationship with gender.
I agree with that completely. So you're speaking of your art Instagram earlier. Do you have any handles to promote or services that you're on the show today to promote? You want to plug anything?
You can check me out. It's at imperfectart.png because I thought I was going to be super cool and quirky because I couldn't get the Instagram handle that I wanted. So I was like, I save my pictures in .png format. And so I was like, it's pictures. So guess what? It's going to be .png, bitches. And then it's just silly and dumb. And now I can't change it. And I've committed to this branding. And it is what it is. It's commit to the bit.
Commit to the brand.
Commit to the brand. I love some branding though.
So speaking of branding, do brands have personalities?
How dare you? And also, of course they do. And also, I wrote my thesis on this. And so
got a good research team.
I got a great team on this. AKA all 6 brain cells that I have studied this intensely for a whopping 6 months straight. But brands, I think, do have personalities because they are constructed to be related to people. And so I think they are intentionally constructed to have human traits. But here's the thing. After my extensive research, I don't think there is a current existing method of brand personality that you would use to study it as you would study human personality. I think there's a very different set of standards for humans and brands, and I'm very interested in that relationship. So much so that I wrote a very long paper about it. But and I don't feel like getting into that right now.
You don't have to.
I don't have to
open up any can of worms you don't want to.
It's not the road. It's not the move. My notes are not prepared for that conversation. But it is a conversation I love to have. And I think, if you think like corporations are evil, and I think corporations are not like
the best.
But I also think that they serve a purpose in our lives, and they are treated as people when it comes to taxes, and we as a society treat them as people, as legal they have personalities, entities. And legally and socially we treat brands as having opinions because they seemingly do, and having social constructs around how brands behave. And I think, as soon as you put those pressures on there, you've endowed it with some level of personality, and that should be explored and examined and researched. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Do you think in the future that there will be a personality test that was developed for brands by brands?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they have that much of an interest in understanding themselves the way that humans do.
So is that the difference then between a corporation and a person?
They want to do some self-exploration? I would probably hesitate to say yes, but yes.
All right. Well, I don't have a whole lot else to ask, I don't think, but am I still going? No. Yeah. I think so. Are there any questions you have for me?
For you? Ooh, I wasn't privy to this part of the
I kind of just made it up.
Spacecast. I love it. Which I know it's a Paintcast, and I know that's like what we're doing, but I want to say Spacecast because of Midnight Gospel.
Yeah. Oh, shut up.
I just want to say Spacecast every time I think about it.
Big influence.
Yeah.
Love that weird little 420 Taurus.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, what's your medium?
Well, good question. I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to figure it out. I have tried many things. I think light is the closest thing that I've gotten to an answer that I say a lot. But I don't know. I think my medium might be. I'm experimenting with, just talking to my friends and making art at the same time. I think curating experiences in like event curation so spontaneous that it seems like just two people hanging out. When I did event management, I had a grid system that was like, I guess I could just draw it. It was, what were the axes? It was on like 2 axes, and one end would be how scripted it was. Okay. And then the other one would be how involved the audience is in the programming.
Okay.
So some of the non-scripted and audience very involved would be like what we're doing here today. It wouldn't be fully non-scripted, but it could be, because I've got questions, but you can't predict. But then there's things like graduation ceremonies and like, sports games where audience is absolutely not part of it, but it's only as scripted as, they walk in, they do the thing, and they go out.
Mm-hmm.
But then lectures with questions in them, and honestly, audience talkbacks, those are all, and theater performances of varying degrees of breaking the fourth wall. I find it really interesting what we classify as an event.
Mm-hmm.
When every experience really has some aspect of these. How planned is it, and how many people are sharing power of what happens? I think it's really interesting to think about the way power is divided on these in different events when, one group is supposed to be doing something and one group's supposed to be doing another, or there's divisions or there's no divisions, and that's the whole statement. And so I don't know, I think
Where's on your graph, where is high audience involvement and high script involvement? What quadrant is that?
let's do scripted, unscripted,
Okay.
involved, segmented.
So this is my corner. I want the audience to be as involved as possible in the creation, but I also want it to be as scripted as possible in its
So
development.
That's this corner for you.
That's me. That's my little corner over here.
Yeah. I guess I'm very unscripted and very involved. I'm like a protest. Well, I gotta find that graph I made. I don't know where it went. I had examples for everything, but yeah, I guess event curation, or not curation, but like fostering an environment. Like, I feel like I mold atmospheres. Atmospheric artist. And that includes like the psychological, emotional lighting and sound and everything. Just curating the ambiance of the room. Basically anything other than the physical set, but also including the set sometimes. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out is what I'm saying. I wanted to do this podcast to try to figure out how everybody else figured out what their thing was. I want to know why artists are good at what they're good at, and how they knew and how they believed in themselves. How they trusted to go for it. Because I believe that making your art and telling your story is very important, but I am still always very uncertain of what mine is. But I know it's important to figure that out, so working on it.
I think that's good. I think, for me it was learning how to mess around and be okay with messing up, which I'm still working on. That's my retrospective area of growth, is being okay with messing up.
I think we could all use a little bit of growth in that area. Opportunity for development for many. This acrylic is so... I am not used to working with it. Having a very interesting time over here. Don't really know what's happening.
Do you have any more questions for me?
No, I think I'm done with the interview portion. Now for our band to play. Hold on, folks. I'm just getting told that we're in quarantine and we cannot have the band over to play tonight.
I'm just now informed.
I've just been informed that it's okay that I stayed home for the past week and a half.
Hey, that's what quarantine is, baby.
Listen, I could very well, I could keep going with this you have to stay home thing. I'm good with that. I like home. I do everything I do to keep a home. That's where I'm supposed to be.
Thank you for having me on your...
Well, thank you for being on
Paintcast.
the Paintcast, and as always, insert slogan here. I'll have something next episode. Thanks for being the inaugural guest. Everyone, give us a round of applause at home if you're listening. If not, you can find us almost nowhere that podcasts are, just on YouTube so far. So, thanks.